What about the way true friends can sometimes hold up a kind of inconvenient mirror to us and say some hard things to us? Is this a dynamic we should be cultivating?
There's a bit of conversation on this week as we're recording this about AI friendship. Oh, that's fine if you just want somebody to parrot back to you how wonderful you are and to say everything you think and say is wonderful. But no, friendship is, you tell me, you raise with me the fact that I'm not kind of carrying my weight. It's very, very difficult to do. But as you do it and as I respond to it, then we both grow to become who we're supposed to be.
This is Life and Faith, a podcast where we put aside talk of culture war or all the stuff we seem to disagree about and talk about the human longings and experiences we all share that make up the mystery of life and faith. Welcome to Life and Faith from CPX. I'm Simon Smart. Well, how do you go with friendship? Do you have long-term friends, close friends? Are you feeling like you've lost touch with friends? What kind of friend are you to other people? We've heard a lot in recent years about a loneliness epidemic. According to a whole host of statistics, we are more lonely than ever before. And loneliness is really bad for our health. It turns out that we really need each other and that friendship is an art, and one that we can attend to and get better at. This week, we are speaking about friendship. What it is, what it isn't, how we go about cultivating good, deep friendships, even when this is not our best skill. Sheridan Voysey is a writer, broadcaster, and speaker. He observes culture carefully and perceptively and aims to speak and write into that. His latest venture is Friendship Lab, a movement with research and a course to help adults build the skills to create and sustain healthy friendships. Years ago, Sheridan Voysey was asked a question that had a profound impact on him. The question was, who can you call at 2 a.m. when everything goes wrong? It was a startling question for him, and it set him on a path that eventually led him to be doing what he's doing now. But let's get him to tell that story. Here's Sheridan.
The scene was my wife Meredith and I were actually in a fostering and adoption seminar. So, we're trying to sort things out with our family life and trying to work that out. And then it was this very straight talking facilitator who asked us that question. Who can you call at 2 a.m. when everything has gone wrong? Because you're going to need support around you. And the reason why it was so impacting for me, Simon, was the fact that my pen was hovering over the workbook and I couldn't think of whose name to write down. And I realized, okay, you've really neglected this area, Sheridan. You need to get intentional about it. And in fact, it really revealed probably three main areas of neglect for me. One was the fact that I was just too busy. Busyness actually is the number one barrier to adult friendship today, so I was very, very busy. Number two was mobility, and I had just moved from Perth to Sydney, so I could claim that as an excuse, but actually it wasn't, because the third one was neglect. I wasn't even being intentional about keeping up with my friends in Brisbane or Perth or anywhere else, let alone making new contacts in Sydney. So that's the reason why it was so impacting, and I realized I need to get intentional. I need to do something every week, actually, to build these relationships, which are just so important.
Yeah, so some of your work now is helping people to discover the importance of this in their lives, but also to find more 2 a.m. friends. I think it's the one way of describing it. Mm-hmm. Now, loneliness is a particularly modern challenge, it would seem. And the stats seem to tell us we are as lonely as ever. Despite being very connected online and so on, what's going on with modern society?
The loneliness measure is really interesting because, of course, we've only been measuring it, for a few decades. But there's a really interesting graph which mapped smartphone penetration in the United States. So when it reached 50%, I think it was around about 2015, 50% market penetration of smartphones. And so when you see the market go up there, you're seeing loneliness levels also rise significantly from that point on. There is definitely a correlation. Now, it doesn't mean that smartphones are bad. They're actually wonderful tools, really wonderful tools for keeping in contact with our friends and acquaintances and other relationships. But if that's all we're doing, if we always reduce each other to 2 dimensions, flickering pixels on a screen, if we always have the ability to not deal with each other directly. So if I have a problem with you, well, then I can just kind of go away. I can think about my response. I can then, type out a message to you, which of course is stripped of emotion. If I'm always having some sort of control over our relationship because it's mediated through this device, then that's going to impact it. But the other thing is, of course, and goes back to Robert Putnam's work, Bowling Alone, it's just the decline of our involvement in community institutions, where we're not signing up for sports groups and, Girl Guides and Scouts and church attendance and all of those kinds of things which we have in the past, which all were the things that brought us together. So there's a whole range of different things going on. Busyness is definitely one of those again, because in some cases we're working multiple jobs perhaps to pay off the mortgage when in the past we didn't need that. So there's a confluence of so many different streams coming in to feed that loneliness epidemic that people are talking about. And then, of course, that correlates with the friendlessness that we have too. Those aren't exactly the same measures. Technically, you could have friends and still be lonely. Technically, you could not have friends and not be lonely. There'd be a very few people that would be the truth for. But those two obviously correlate. High loneliness means that we need friends.
Yes, and I'll pick up on that soon. But this problem of loneliness, it's a serious problem, isn't it? It has health implications. We're relational beings. We're wired up for friendship and connection relationally. And the consequences of this are quite serious.
Yeah, those people who have no close friends have higher rates of anxiety, higher rates of depression, lower rates of meaning, lower rates of happiness, greater cardiovascular disease problems, lower immune systems, so certainly much more perceptible to everything that's going around us. They've likened the power of friendship, even if you're in hospital and you're having a major operation, if you've got a friend holding your hand, just being there present, they actually liken it to the power of morphine. It's that powerful. And indeed, those people who have close friends have, on average, 7-year longer lifespans. So in every way, if you want to have eternal life, can't quite get you there, but we can certainly get you a longer life by certainly intentionally building into your friendships.
Yeah, and the flip side of those problems of anxiety and depression and so on, a whole lot of benefits if we are able to cultivate good friendships. Why are we finding forging friendships so difficult today? What are the big challenges there?
Well, there are those 3 big barriers: busyness, mobility, neglect. Yeah. Shyness is another one in there as well. So that's the first interpersonal barrier. The others are kind of sociological barriers. So we need to think about each one of those, I think, fairly seriously. Busyness is definitely an issue. Having said that, all the studies that show out of Australia, United Kingdom, and the United States show that on average, each of us spends around about 5 hours on our smartphones streaming video alone. That's before we talk about broadcast TV, broadcast radio, reading books, and all those other things. I would suggest if we've got 5 hours for that, we have got 10 seconds for a check-in text, 5 minutes, 10 minutes for a check-in call, and an hour to meet up with somebody on the weekend for lunch. So busyness is there, but we are spending our time in other ways, which we can certainly think about when it comes to priorities. Mobility is certainly an issue. I know that there are some people who have made commitments. I'm just going to stay where I am so I can just go and dig deep. Really dig deep roots in this community, and I will purposefully not move to other places, even if I've got some great opportunities for the sake of the relationships. The shyness is an interesting one, Simon, because shyness is definitely a social barrier, but the shy person you probably want as your friend, because shy people often have very rich internal lives. They're very reflective. I want a shy person, when they get past that initial relational barrier, I want them to be my friend because they're going to be listening. They're going to be reflecting. They're going to be thinking. They're going to be present. So if you're shy, think of your shyness as a superpower. Now just let's deal with the fear involved in that, because those fears are built on things that you don't need to worry about. And then, of course, the neglect, and that is cultural. We have so emphasized another form of love that friendship has just not had a look in over the last few decades in particular. And that other form of love is, of course, romance. I mean, when romance walks in the room, all eyes go to romance. You know, she's the prettier sibling of the two. And so everybody looks there. And so we've got books and courses and whole organizations set up for dating and marriage and parenting and family life. And I thank God for each one of those. But until now, can you believe it? We haven't had anything dedicated on adult friendship. We've had a few books here and there. We've had no evidence-based courses. We've certainly had no non-profits to help us with it, which is why Friendship Lab exists. But we've neglected it. And so we just really need to ramp it up there and put it up as the queen of the relationships, I think.
And we want to very quickly get to your Friendship Lab and hear about that, because this is amazing work that you've been doing for a few years now. But probably helpful right now to give us a definition of friendship. What do we mean when we talk about friends?
Simon, I'm glad you've asked the question, because this is so important that most of us don't actually understand what a friend is, because culturally we've just neglected the relationship and we just are left to think, well, if you made friends at school, well, somehow you know what a friend is. Let me give you a definition that we work on here at Friendship Lab. A friend is someone I can talk to, depend on, grow with, and enjoy. And all of those four elements are really important. So somebody to talk to about the little things and the big things, the football scores and holiday plans, as well as the big questions we're having about life and faith and meaning, and should I change jobs, and what do I do with that difficult colleague? Depend on. They're the people we can call at 2 a.m. when everything has gone wrong, and they can call on us. Grow with. Aristotle said friendship is the school of virtue. It's the place where we are shaped to be the people that we are meant to become. At its best, friendship means that you help me to become who I'm supposed to be, and I help you to become who you're supposed to be, and not just for your sake, but for those around you as well. And then the enjoyment bit. I mean, there's no real friendship without the ability to just laugh together, enjoy each other's presence, whether that's because you just stimulate my thinking or because you, like me, Simon, enjoy moody European films with subtitles, which I'm assuming you probably don't. It's a rare hobby, I can tell you.
Well, we can share that, I'm sure, Sheridan, and many other things. But yeah, humour's got to be an important part of this, doesn't it?
It does. And definitely when we look at this whole area of homophily, you know, what is the similarities between a couple of friends? Humour is right up there. If you can have a shared sense of humour, it really carries. It's not the only thing, but it really, really carries, because it means you see what I see.
Yeah.
I'm having a shared experience with you right now because you also see the humor in that moment, in that punchline. So it brings us together, and that shared sense of I found somebody else who sees what I see is a very powerful thing.
What then, we've talked about what friendship is. Give us an example of what friendship is not.
Oh, again, an equally important question, because we completely misunderstand it, and therefore we often find out too late. I was speaking to a retired professional, had a very successful career, and he'd just retired, a few months before I was talking to him. He said, all these years I thought I had friends, but I'd only had colleagues, and I've never known the difference.
Right.
So that's a big thing. Our colleagues are not automatically our friends. We may have great working relationships with them. We may enjoy going to work with them. That's fantastic. But that does not a friend make. Our colleagues can become friends when we take a few extra steps. Your neighbours are not necessarily your friends, even if you live very closely to them, like I do. I'm in a set of terrace houses here. We're just a metre away. But they're not necessarily friends. They can become friends, but they're not necessarily friends. The people we're trying to help, that's a big one, particularly for those of us who are in church circles, where we've emphasized so much good works, serving other people, loving the people that are difficult to love. They are not friends. They can become them, but they're not automatically friends. And likewise, the people who serve us aren't necessarily our friends. I saw a documentary on cruise ship goers, and they spoke to this woman who was an avid cruiser. And the film crew came along and she said, oh, the staff, they know my name, they know my favorite drink, they bring me my favorite cocktail, they know what I like for dinner. They're my friends.
Yeah.
And they went and interviewed the crew, and the crew didn't see things the same way because they were being paid to give her good service. So, the hairdresser on the corner may know everything about your family dramas. The barista may remember that you have your latte on soy, but that does not a friendship make either.
So it's reciprocity is part of this, isn't it?
In part of the DNA of friendship, you can really talk about three things: freedom, mutuality, and equality. So it's a freely chosen relationship from both sides. I might be friendly towards you, but unless you kind of reciprocate freely, then that's not a friendship. The mutuality is very, very key, so that yes, we both come to this and we both see each other as friends. And related to that is equality, which is why it's difficult to be friends with your boss, because in that moment there is a power differential between the two of you. It doesn't mean it's not possible, but when you do relate as friends, you need to kind of be in another space, and it needs to be very clear that, you know, there's not the business cap on there's not the CEO cap on, there's the friend cap on. So freedom, mutuality, and equality are the key aspects of what makes a friend a friend.
This is Life and Faith, and we're talking about friendship. We're going to pause our conversation with Sheridan for a moment because we want to hear from a couple of groups of people who have had enduring and interesting friendships. First up, a couple of young guys in their early 20s who've been close friends since primary school. And full disclosure here, we're keeping it close to home. It's my son, Luke, and his mate, Lockie. Lockie and Luke, good to have you on Life and Faith.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Now, when did you first meet? What's your first memory, Luke, of Lockie?
So we went to the same primary school, but we didn't actually become friends until about year 6. Oh. We'd walk home the same route, and I think eventually one day we kind of just walked at the same pace and chatted a bit. I always thought Lockie was a bit weird when we were younger, but then we weren't that close. And then one day he had these really expensive glasses that he would wear to school, and I kind of was mucking around and pretended to throw them and actually let go of them, and they snapped and broke. Oh. And Lockie made me feel really guilty about it, so I bought him a footy ball to say sorry, and then from there we kind of got tight.
Maybe you should have bought him new glasses. Like, what does his parents think that? Lockie, what was your first memory of Luke?
It's the exact same memory. I have an earlier one, but I remember Luke becoming school captain.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, this bloke's pretty smart. Like, he's got a head on his shoulders. And I was like, you know, I wonder what this guy does and whatnot, because we had nothing to do with each other up to year 6.
Right.
And it was because we lived so close to each other, we'd walk home pretty much the exact same route.
Right.
And I remember the first day we walked home together. The whole time we were just cracking jokes. And then we just walked home together all the time. And that moment with the glasses was...
Yeah, that was key.
That's a real bonding moment when someone wrecks your expensive glasses. That was an interesting one. But Lockie, was there something about Luke that drew you to him? Like, what made you think, I'd like to hang out with Luke?
I think we both had a similar outlook on life and what life is about, you know. We always talked about what we wanted to do. Like, we started planning this overseas trip that we wanted to do really early on, like straight away, maybe 5 walks in.
Right, so this is in year 6.
Yeah, in year 6. We're talking about, were we talking about Walter Mitty back then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Walter Mitty movie is a bit of an inspiration for travel.
Definitely.
And so you're talking about that in year 6, and we'll talk about this in a moment, but that ends up becoming a reality a few years later. So we'll get to that in a sec. But Luke, what did you like about Lockie? You didn't have any friends, I suppose, so you needed anyone who could...
Lockie, he was always so much fun. I think it just it starts with humour. Like, we just had a really good sense of like ridiculousness and not taking anything too serious. But I think Lockie always was just doing really interesting things. I remember like one of the first times we hung out, we made like a hockey board game out of just this plank of wood and nails, and we painted it. And I don't really have any friends who just like, Lockie kind of didn't have any screens in his house and didn't have any sugar or anything. So he was left to do all of these interesting things, and he always had a new idea about these fun things we could do and projects. He had a YouTube channel at the time, I think.
Yeah,
we made some flipping videos, and like, he just always was doing something interesting and cool, and I just wanted to be a part of it. And he just kind of put that into me now, I think. Like, he inspired me to be like that.
Now, you'd planned this world trip, right, when you were year 6, and a couple of years ago, you did it.
Yeah.
And headed off for a 6-month trip. That was a pretty amazing experience, no doubt. And the friendship survived. Like, it's hard to travel with people sometimes, but you remain friends, which I think shows a pretty solid friendship.
Yeah.
That was a ripper trip.
It was awesome. Like, I can't speak for Lockie, but best time of my life. And
100%.
Just hanging out with him every day, it was just so much fun.
Lockie, how did you manage to stay friends even in
Across
such
that trip.
close quarters? Yeah, exactly.
I don't think many people could do that.
No, I agree.
I've heard of people going 2 weeks with each other and just
That's
like
the end.
That's it. Never again. We did 6 months
Yeah.
together, all day, every day. It's the same thing. It's like Luke's outlook on life. Don't take anything too seriously. There was a few moments where, I made a few mistakes or did the wrong thing, and Luke knows that, one mistake is not someone's whole
Character.
Yeah.
Right.
Luke's really resilient, and we both understand each other really well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Luke, what are the things that have kept the friendship going?
I think
Because you didn't go to the same high school.
no,
but
that's
you kept
I was
friends.
about to say. I think not going to the same high school probably helped a bit because we didn't really have like the kind of weird dynamic where we weren't in any different social groups. Like we kind of had our own things going on, but we'd always just have each other like in between that. So I think me and Lockie, we both gone through like very different phases of life and different groups, different social things going on. But because we've kind of been removed from having that closeness from it, we just always got each other, and we live like 2 minutes away from each other, so we can always just pop down. Another thing with Lockie, like I don't feel like I need to see him or hear from him every day to feel close to him. Like he's gone away since our trip, and he was away in Japan for 3 months, and we literally hardly talked the whole time. Like he's just working, but I just kind of know that he's like nothing changes with us, like, and it's kind of just this ongoing thing where I know how I feel about him, he knows how I feel about me, and like we don't have any issues that come up with that. Like it's so easy with him. It's always just like there's no issue there.
Lockie?
Yeah, I think, we've both got our own communities and different friend groups. Some overlaps a bit, but we both like need each other. Yeah. It's such a rare type of like unconditional support from the other person that unfortunately I don't think a lot of people have. So I'm super fortunate to have Luke. Like it's the understanding that, if you have a problem, you can go to the other person, and far removed from your friendship group. Like it's just direct one-on-one support. There's no politics or underlying, like anything. Yeah. It's just 100% pure support for each other.
And I wonder, who knows, right? But I think friendships like that can last a lifetime.
Oh,
Can you imagine that being the case?
Yeah.
Let's hope so. Yeah, I think so.
Many more trips coming up?
Oh, we'll get one going soon. We kind of got different schedules right now, but we'll line up eventually. Yeah.
What's interesting to me is you have lots of similarities, but differences as well. Does that add a bit of richness to a friendship, do you think?
Definitely. I think the different ways Lockie, the differences I see in him help me like strive to be a better person as well. Like when I see Lockie, the way he's so like motivated, and if he wants to do something, he puts 100% into it. Like I'm not always like that, but I want to be more like that. And seeing him do that and be so skilled in different areas of life, and he's always networking, and like I could probably take a leaf out of that book. Like, but yeah, just seeing his differences and like the different things he gets excited for. Like I don't know, I've been super into my footy recently, and I've kind of forced Lockie to do that too and kick the footy with him, and I've helped him. We kind of always get into the same thing weirdly at the same time, just because I think if one person's into it and passionate about it, then the other one can get excited about it too. Like if Lockie's excited about something, I'll be excited for him, and I'll be keen to look into that too.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that's how it goes.
Well, that's real friendship. Lockie?
Yeah, I feel the exact same. We are very similar, I think, in a lot of aspects, but in some ways we're also really different. Luke's very level-headed and super empathetic and super reasonable, and like knows what's best for other people. I think I struggle a little bit in that aspect. So Luke actually helps me quite a lot with navigating some things in my personal life where I need a super empathetic perspective on some things.
You get that from Luke sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
That's good. Well, you both once kicked the footy and ended up with concussion, smashing into each other. So your friendship survived some things.
Some rocky moments. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. It was so good hearing about it. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Simon.
Now, let's get back to Sheridan Voysey. He has started a not-for-profit called Friendship Lab. Now, through various experiences in his work, he saw a need for this. So I asked him what was that need and why he felt the call to action in creating this organisation.
I came to this unexpectedly, I was on a retreat in 2019, kind of reflecting on where my life was heading, what should I focus on, and this area of friendlessness really felt heavy on that in a light way, something that I really felt I should pursue. And I thought I'd go and write a book on it. So started researching adult friendship, discovered there wasn't a lot out there, but there was a lot of research that wasn't kind of getting out of the journals into the public. Started writing the book, and about a year in, realized, you know what, the need is so large that even if a book did well, it would not scratch that itch. It just would not change it. Now, at the moment, there's 25% of Australians that say they have no one to talk to or turn to. That came out of some research out of Swinburne University. Here in the United Kingdom, 20% of people have no close friends, 10% have no friends at all. So in both of our countries, walk down the street, count them off. Every fourth or fifth person has no close friends. Every 10th person has no friends at all. What was going to really change that? Well, I realized that not just books, but we'd need evidence-based courses, we'd need media collaborations, we'd need arts collaborations, get the artists reflecting, getting us exposed to this idea, this beautiful relationship called friendship. And out of that, Friendship Lab, the organisation, has been born. And so our first cab off the rank has been an evidence-based course which we've put 4 years of research into. We piloted it with an anthropologist from the University of Leicester. We did a big survey of 1,100 people to work out the real friendship pain points that adults face. And all of that has gone into this 6-session evidence-based course that really kind of tackles the biggest problems of friendship and how we go about doing it and forming it and deepening it.
And sounds amazing, and we hope people will go and check it out. Is there a sense for some people that if I need a course to help me understand friendship and make friends, well, clearly I'm not doing very well. Is there a bit of a stigma to that? Like, because people might admit to being lonely in a anonymous survey, but probably many of us wouldn't want to admit to it because it makes you feel like a loser or something.
So that stigma of loneliness and friendlessness is one that I think Friendship Lab has a real calling to tackle. We will all be part of that 20% at some time in our life, actually probably multiple times in our life. Not probably, we will have multiple times in our life where we are part of that 20%, part of that 25%, simply if we move cities for work. Yeah. It takes about 2 to 5 years to rebuild a friendship network when you move to a new city. We will all be part of that, so let's just own it. We don't need to be ashamed of it. Secondly, though, we have specifically talked about Friendship Lab being about empowering your relationships. So making your friendships thrive. So it's not just about making new friends. It's actually about empowering the friends you have. Our research found 40% of us who have friends actually want to get closer to them, but we don't know how. So It's not just about, this is going to be a signal that I've got no friends. No, well, even if that's the case, that's fine. But also it's about deepening the friendships we have. We don't know the skills of either making or deepening friendship, and that's what Friendship Lab is for. So I think we just need to really tackle this head on and say, look, this is part of the human condition. And why can we do a marriage course? And that's okay, because actually we want to strengthen our marriage. Why is it okay to do a dating course? Why is it okay to go to a singles group or something? All of that recognizes that we have a need. It's absolutely fine to have a need in the area of friendship too. I continue to have needs in the area of friendship. I continue to have to be intentional. Learning this art and science of friendship, let's just own it and move forward and grow.
I like that, calling it an art. So give us some tips on being better at making and holding friends today.
Well, therein lies 6 whole hours of conversations there, because that's what the Friendship Lab course is for. Let me give you a couple.
Give us a teaser, and then we'll all go and do the course.
Well, something you can put into practice straight away is that intentionality of contact. And so work on those 3 points of contact: check-in, the catch-up, and the meet-up. Check-in text can be WhatsApp, can be a quick little video message, whatever it might be. But it's just a quick little text. Simon, how are you doing? How did you go? Did you enjoy that interview that you did with Sheridan Voysey from Friendship Lab the other day? So a quick little check-in text. It's going to take you 10 seconds. You can do it on the bus. You can take 10 seconds out of that 5 hours you're spending scrolling through streaming video. Then there's the catch-up call. So again, just getting up the phone. That's the amazing thing about those things. They don't just surf the internet. You can talk to people on them.
You can talk to people,
Have you heard that? I know, it's an amazing feature. So you can talk to people on it. You can do a video call, whatever it might be. It can just be a voice note. Voice notes are great because beyond text, you got the emotion of your voice as well. Keep it to under 10 minutes so that they don't kind of, oh no, here's Sheridan again. We're going to have another 45-minute call. Keep it to under 10 minutes. And then a meetup every week, having at least one person, different person each week, that'd be good, that you meet up with for coffee, a walk, a meal, a game, football, whatever it might be. So yeah, check-ins, catch-ups, meetups. Another thing I would suggest is to really learn the art of friendship intimacy, which is a whole session in the Friendship Lab course. We talk about it being like a finely woven garment. So you think of 4 threads that are part of a finely woven garment, and the tighter the weave, the warmer and the stronger that relationship is going to be. And those 4 threads are generosity, affection, vulnerability, and shared experiences. So there you go. Here's some ways to keep in touch with your friends or your contacts or your acquaintances that you're wanting to move across friendship. Or then focus on those 4 threads in terms of how you want to deepen your friendship. And then all the how-tos are in the course.
This is Life and Faith, and we're talking about loneliness and friendship and ways of cultivating better friendships. We'll come back to Sheridan in a moment, but now we're going to hear from 3 women who met in high school and have been friends for almost 30 years. They've each got busy, separate lives, but they remain close, and they've been through a lot together. So we're hearing from someone whose voice you'll recognise, my colleague Justine Toe, and her 2 friends, Zoe and Kate. Now, you guys have been friends for a long time. When did you first meet? What was your first memory of each other?
I was actually thinking about this when I was getting ready to come, and I realised I think it's 4 years that we've been besties for 30 years.
Oh,
That's nuts.
that's
Really?
great.
I know. To be honest, I mean, I was never that strong at maths, but my first memory, because we weren't in the same groups at school, I'd say we were friends in that way that you are friends with everybody in your year. But it was, for me, we were invited to a mutual friend's birthday. And I remember engaging in conversation with Justine and Zoe, and it was about feminism. And it was such an incredible chat. I left feeling so inspired and excited. Yeah.
What age were you at this stage?
18.
Okay.
I have 2 memories. One is Justine and I were at the same school from when we were in year 7. So I feel like we met when we were 11 or 12. And then Kate came later, year 11, year 10.
10. Yeah.
And I liked both of them the whole way through, but I think that's right. I think our close friendship started as soon as we left school. But my memory is I decided I was quite kind of intentional about who I wanted my group to be after school when the groups weren't sort of pre-formed. And I was like, decided that this would be my friendship group post-school.
And that's really interesting because a lot of people I've spoken to are in the same boat. They became much closer friends after school. I mean, the dynamics in school are kind of interesting, aren't they? Justine, what was your first memory of these 2?
I don't know if it was the first meeting, but one of the first impressions I had of Zoe was, I don't know what it's called, but you know there's like a little model that you can pose to then help you draw? It's like got movable limbs. Zoe had drawn herself as something like that and was sort of reflecting, I think, on what this model might have to say about how she felt or something. So, and I'm not a drawer. I don't draw at all. So that made an impression on me. And I just thought it was quite beautiful and different. And I suppose versus the image that I suppose Zoe has in terms of how we all think about Zoe versus her internal experience of herself, that was really quite beautiful, I think. And my memory of Kate is something that I've sort of slyly written about in Achievement Addiction, where we were in modern history together. And,
We know this story. Well, some of us know this story.
And Kate was being a little bit maybe slightly disruptive in class. And I was a bit like, come on, we are here to get high marks and you're distracting me from that. So that's my memory. It's so shocking. But
We think Kate has enormous reservoirs of grace.
Yes, that's right.
That bratty kid who carried on like that and still remained friends. Tell us what drew you to each other. Like, think of something that you thought, I like that about that person. That's, Zoe, you said you thought these are the people I want. What was it about them that particularly made you have that feeling?
I think really interested in the way they both thought about the world and big ideas. And I think probably to most people, we probably weren't obvious candidates to be close friends, but we actually have maybe a similar curiosity and kind of maybe moral compass or something, and a sense of humour. Maybe they're the kind of core things.
Kate?
Yeah, I was really surprised by Justine and Zoe because it's bizarre to say this, but I was cool. And in that way that now I look back and I'm like, that's not cool. That's maybe unhealthy or rebellious. So I was around all these people who seemed confident and seemed acted as if they knew themselves. But when I encountered Zoe and Justine, they really did know themselves. And I was like, oh, this is what really being cool means. It means being confident in, maybe speaking up and saying the right thing in a moment when that's not happening, or being quiet in a moment when everyone's speaking up. They just seem to have this real, a true self-assurance that I found really attractive.
Justine, do you think it's the things that you have in common that bind you together? Or is it something different from that?
I think it probably helps that we have, I guess, shared foundational, kind of what Zoe said, the moral compass sort of thing, even if we have very different beliefs about the world. And they are pretty different, I think, if you kind of dig deeper. But there's a real sense of, like, we are almost like a secure base with each other. Like, this is a space where you can kind of be yourself. You can be open about what you struggle about. And as I'm talking, I'm like, what a giant hypocrite, Justine, because I haven't talked about a bunch of things with these guys lately. But yeah, I think that's the shared goal and vision, I suppose, if we want to put it in those kind of terms. We know that it's going to be okay. And I think we've just been through a lot together, been traveling a lot. There's been difficult stuff in people's lives. I think we've fought as well, but very, very, very little, like not much at all. So I'm not so sure whether we can say, oh, you definitely have to have this ingredient as part of the mix, which is what makes this work. But having that shared kind of basis and therefore having been through a lot together, I think is helpful for that.
I'd say it's less about what we have in common as it is about genuinely liking each other a lot and also being pretty clear that this is a lifelong commitment. So it's like, well, sometimes things are good and sometimes it's a bit sketchy, but like long view. Yeah.
Kate, what's the form of the friendship taken? Like, how's it existed? Like, what do you do to be friends?
I feel like when someone's a real friend because you're happy to do anything and go anywhere. You don't even care. You'd be so happy to sit on the side of the road because you just want to be with them and talk to them. So we have had amazing opportunities to travel, and that's a really incredible, intimate thing you see when someone comes alive, when someone struggles, when someone gets tired and cranky. But I guess we've just tried to catch up, as we've gotten older and people have kids and busy lives. It's harder to do fun going out activities, day trips. It becomes, catch-up dinners and a rare special movie. But we're always trying to, I think, create more and put dates in the calendar. And I'm grateful for the time we had when we were younger to really go deep. We know a lot about our experience as children and, first relationships and loves. Like, we know where we're coming from. So I feel like that gives you a lot of, I don't know the right term, like bandwidth or leeway with each other, understanding. Yeah.
Also, when you have to hold the door closed of the toilet store when someone else is having epic diarrhea in Mexico, that tends to forge a friendship.
Good times.
There are ties that bind, and those experiences can have that sort of effect. I was going to ask you, have you had any falling out? Has there ever been a falling out between either two of you or the three of you? Or what? How's that been negotiated?
Yeah, like in the deep recesses of time, though, like we're pretty good at assuming good faith and communicating and maybe telling the difference between feelings and maybe what the facts tell us about what's going on. So I think those things put us in good stead. So I think we've been reasonably good at finding our way back quickly rather than letting things linger.
Yeah.
Maybe we're still practicing it when there are minor irritations or challenges, calling it out and just having a quick conversation rather than letting it persist. But I don't know, do either of you want to add anything to that? Or
in my head, I've got the Sex and the City, the women there. The new incarnation of that show is that Samantha has not spoken to Carrie for something like ages right now. And it's strange because I would never think, based on my experience of these two, I would never think that you would go for an extended period of time and not talk to the other person. Like, that just seems wild to me that would happen. And so I think that's a sign of a healthy kind of understanding, I suppose, and like the good faith thing that Zoe just mentioned. I think that's really, there's something to that.
I mean, I think of Justine and Zoe as family, and like Zoe said, it's a lifelong commitment and a real love. And I'm often aware, I'd say we've had clunky times, not falling out. And in the times I've been the reason of that clunkiness, they've both been so forgiving and patient, and there when I return, you have to look at yourself in a relationship, like, how am I contributing to this weird moment? And how can you get back to a point of communication sooner rather than later? And I will add, I think for how much we talk on WhatsApp, we do pretty well at not, the possibility for miscommunication and weirdly written quick, messages. I think we do really amazingly.
I will say that, and guess what? We had talked about this briefly on WhatsApp before this conversation, just to check if everyone's okay with this. Going back to Mexico again, that was 2009, right after I submitted my doctorate. And I think there was a moment there where I properly reckoned with what I had done that was a betrayal of Zoe's trust. And that was a really good moment. It's still stuck in my head, sitting on the beach I wonder if we were in Zipolite or somewhere around there. And I'm happy to report that in the years since, someone else do the math, we're now 2025, Zoe's kind of forgiveness is like full-bodied. It's not, as far as I can tell anyway, she's not grinding an axe in the background. Do you know what I mean?
No, you sent the message and I was like, what is she talking about?
Well, it's a sign that other people hang on to stuff, right?
Sometimes forgiveness is exactly what you just said, Zoe. It's like, I've forgotten that. That's truly past. And that's, I think, real forgiveness. What about this friendship has made you a better person?
Oh my gosh. Can I go first? Sorry. I need to go first.
I want to go first.
Justin, Kate can go first.
It was a joke. It was a joke. Please, Justine, please.
In my wedding speech, I think I very much said, I reckon that Zoe and Kate half raised me, if I can put it that way. And that sounds ridiculous in the sense that these are not my other mums, right? But in a way they kind of are. I think I really, and I hate when people use this word, but I feel richly blessed to have these two in my life, because I'm just kind of like, you mean other people just don't get this? Other people can't feel like they have someone who will just listen and be positive and, kind. I find that's really sad. So I think this friendship has made me a better person. It's made me look for the best in people. I think I can be quite harsh and critical, but I think I look for the best in people. That's a Zoe contribution, especially, I would say. I mean, Kate's like this as well, but that's a Zoe special. I love Kate's rebellious streak because I was such the good girl. I never wanted to put a foot wrong. But Kate has a really good, why not attitude, which I think is so, and that's not to say that Zoe doesn't have that, but there's just a particular thing that each of these guys has that's slightly more pronounced in their particular makeup. And so I think that's really quite special. And I like to think that I'm a better friend to other people as well because I've had these two show me how it's done.
Justine and Zoe, friendship has multiple facets, and I think they've been mirrors to me. So having a space where you can be reflected back to yourself, so important. So important to do that with people who are honest with you and where even when they're silent, you know what's being said. I would say I'm hugely who I am because of them both. And I think having that backing when you go out into the world, when I go out for a job interview or I go on, a first date, knowing that I'm loved and seen and held gives me a lot of confidence. And I think the older I get, the more grateful I am because I'm really aware my parents are getting older. They're going to pass away one day and I'm single and don't have children. So it's like, how am I held? Who loves me? Who knows me? It makes me really, really grateful to know a sense of I'm going to be okay. And I do find it inspires me to be kind to others and to be generous. And I know what it's like to feel like I'm forgiven and seen and loved. So I want to give that outwards.
Zoe, perhaps you can wrap it by telling me, what do you think have been the ingredients that have kept the friendship going?
We laugh quite a lot at each other, but also other things. And we play. And I think that's really important. And I think we've probably all got quite a bit of space for listening to how things are going and sort of working through things that maybe people have been holding on to and trying to figure out for a while. Also, when things turn south, when things are bad, then we're pretty good at turning up. So I think all of those things, in addition to generally being clear, we'll just keep turning up and keep making time for each other.
That's Justine Toe and her friends Zoe and Kate. You often hear that men, especially as they get older, don't do well with friendship. So I asked Sheridan Voysey about this. Is it harder for men to make friends?
This is a really interesting one. We think that men have got it worse. Everywhere I go, people say, oh yeah, well, this will be really good for men.
Yeah.
The research in all of our countries shows that the loneliness and the friendlessness problem actually is roughly 50-50 between men and women.
Yeah.
Maybe 55-45, but it's not 70-30.
Yeah.
So it is an issue, and there's no doubt that we seem to be, as men, we seem to be a few steps behind. But I think that's for other reasons. I think, number one, women are almost certainly much more responsive to go and solving the problem. So they will act on doing a course. They will act on getting really intentional. Whereas for men, they're a little bit more reticent to do that. And part of the reason we can put the blame at the feet of one man in particular with that is Sigmund Freud. You know, when you go and read some of the letters that were being read and written and sent between men in the 17th and 18th century, my goodness, they sound like love letters to us today. You know, I fear that when we next see each other, somehow our love may well have been diminished. You know, it's very what we might call romantic. But all of that changed when Freud came along and said, actually, there are hidden erotic desires behind all of our relationships, even between you and your mother. So at that point, that's when men started to kind of move away from expressing the affection that they used to share with each other. And so now, what do we have left? All we have is jokes. All we have is, you know, roughing up the hair. When we get onto the football field, that's when we can hug and even kiss. But apart from that, it's very hard for us to share affection, which is so much a part of friendship, intimacy and bonding. So we definitely have some cultural problems behind us, but we've also got all of the capacity to be able to deepen our friendship. And I'm really grateful that after that 2 a.m. question that happened so many years ago, it's taken some time, but I can really say I've got some 2 a.m. male friends who I absolutely love to bits.
Yeah. What about the way true friends can sometimes hold up a kind of inconvenient mirror to us and say some hard things to us? Is this a dynamic we should be cultivating?
A friend is someone I can talk to, depend on, grow with, and enjoy. And there's a bit of conversation on this week as we're recording this about AI friendship. And Mark Zuckerberg is talking about maybe Facebook rolling out AI friends. Oh, that's fine if you just want somebody to parrot back to you how wonderful you are and to affirm you and to say everything you think and say is wonderful. But no, friendship is you tell me, you show me. Actually, the way that I responded was actually really defensive. You show me, you tell me, you raise with me the fact that, you know, I'm just not being as present as I used to be. I'm not doing as much initiation as I used to be, that I'm not kind of carrying my weight. That's all part of us growing. And without that, I don't become the person I'm supposed to be. You don't become the person you're supposed to be. It takes a lot of bravery to raise that with a friend. It's very, very difficult to do. But as you do it and as I respond to it, then we both grow together to become who we're supposed to be. So it's really an important one. It's a difficult one. And there's a whole area that we need to explore there, which is on how to have difficult conversations with our friends. Our research found that the majority of people, when they've had a friendship break, the issue that caused the friendship to break was never addressed directly. So we have to learn that skill as well. How do we have a difficult conversation with a friend, whether it be just something interpersonal or actually something major that we need to talk through?
Yeah, it seems to me that when things go badly in a friendship, these things are not easily recoverable. Do people talk about this, or is that just my world?
It depends on how the problem is tackled and depends on when the problem is tackled. Often we leave it too late. In the Friendship Lab course, I tell this story of me and a friend who had to have a difficult conversation and how I had let this issue build up and build up and build up and build up and build up because I had somehow thought in my mind, I just need to keep on forgiving him. Right. Actually, that was a ruse. All that meant was that I wasn't raising the issue with him and it all blew up. And so we actually had to have this really difficult conversation. Now, thankfully, an hour and a half later, or whatever it took, 2 hours later of talking this through, when you do this, this is how I feel. When you do this, yeah, well, you do this as well. And talking it through, we were able to hug and embrace, and our relationship was to actually be deeper as a result of going through that. But I had let that fester under this false idea of forgiveness. Forgiveness is very, very important. But actually raising an issue with somebody as well is very, very important, because there's a couple of researchers that talk about pinches and punches. So you deal with it at the pinch stage when it's, just a little pinch on the arm, versus when it's gotten to the punch stage. Deal with it early and then just raise it gently. We have a 3-phase process in the course for talking through those difficult questions and those difficult conversations you have to have. A setup, meet up, and then a follow-up. So in the setup, you set up all the environment that's needed to have a good conversation. Simon, there's just been something I really want to raise with you. Can we meet for coffee Tuesday afternoon, 5 o'clock? Then the meetup. I start off by affirming our friendship. Our friendship means so much to me, Simon, that I want to raise this with you because I don't want anything to get in the way of it. Then you talk about something very specific. 3 weeks ago when we had that conversation, you said this, and it just made me feel this. So there's a whole bunch of steps you go through, and then the follow-up. Thanks so much for meeting with me. I really feel lighter as a result of that. I really appreciate our friendship. Or if it didn't go well, thanks for meeting with me. I know we're not seeing things quite the same way yet, but the door is open to talk further.
How many friends do you need?
Good question. There is something called the Dunbar number, and it says that we have the brain capacity only to handle no more than 150 friends in our overall network. Now, there's 2 things with that. Number one, there has been some significant challenges to the maths. And so some researchers tried to replicate that, and I think the figures came out at anywhere from 86 to 300. So there is some challenge with the maths. The other challenge is cultural, is that some people have said you need 150 friends. Well, that's never going to be the case.
Seems like a lot.
It's way too much. That basically is who you can remember the name of. And I don't know about you, Simon, I can hardly remember the name of my wife most days.
These are not 2 a.m. friends, are they?
Exactly, they're not. No, this is in the layers. So in our model, we would have acquaintances, casual friends, close friends, closest friends. Well, Dunbar's number would generally fit into that friends section, and then it multiplies by 3 the further you go out. So yes, technically you might be able to know of the face of 1,500 people after that, and maybe 5,000 after that. There's some question mark about the maths. What is certain is that having 3 to 5 close friends in your inner circle, and then somewhere around maybe another layer of about 12, and then I would go out maximum to 50, which is what Dunbar would say in those first 3. That would generally hold true as long as we recognize what these are. So at that 50 stage, that is your Christmas card list. That's your Facebook list. That's your Instagram list. These are people for whom, if you had a birthday party, they would come along, but you're not super close. But look, I really want to say, because whenever we talk about the numbers, always I'll have a whole bunch of people say, oh gosh, I can't even think of 7. And I say, you know what? You got 7? Wonderful. Because I reckon you're probably considering those to be much more closer friends than you think. So I don't think we need any more than I would say about 15. And that would be within those first 2 to 3 circles. You want somebody close in there, 2 to 3 people really, really close inside, including your spouse if you're married. And then you want the outer regions that are there for fun and for walking the dog and for those people that are on the way into that inner circle of yours.
Yeah, which is, I guess, what you want, right? You want this sort of movement from acquaintance to close friend over time. Sheridan, less people go to church these days, but can you comment on the way that the Christian community can contribute something to this challenge, and maybe even something unique to this challenge?
Look, it is so interesting because I know there was some research done that found that there's really only 2 institutions left that regularly bring people of a variety of different backgrounds together. One is the sporting club, the other one is the church. We have other institutions, but they're not as well attended and they're a little bit more homogenous. So the church is a great place, an incredible place to start. And I can say that, having been somebody guilty of that mobility barrier. I've lived in 5 major cities, 15 different houses, 2 countries. Every time I've been able to find a local church, and we've been able to find a place where we can then plant ourselves and get to know a variety of different people from different backgrounds. That's important because you get different perspectives. And yet you've got that shared commonality, of that shared transcendent values, that shared belief that really holds you together, even if you're very, very different. So there's that. And you think about the average local church, there's probably about 3 different levels that you can participate in. Number 1 is the main church gathering on a Sunday, typically. Then you've probably got a midweek group. And so the Sunday group, well, you might be a church of 50, might be 150, might be something larger. You've got the large group, lots of opportunities to make new acquaintances who can then move into being new casual friends, new friends. What do you have midweek? Often you'll have a midweek Bible study or prayer group or some sort of community group. What is that? Generally, they're around about 12 to 15 people. What a great opportunity to go deeper with a few. Out of that few, you can then find some that you just particularly, there's a spark there. We see things the same way. We're laughing at the same things. We both like moody European films with subtitles. And that's when you can start to find some closer friends. There's other things too. Spiritual practices really draw people together. When I get together and pray with people, remember what we talked about before with the 4 threads of intimacy. I'm being vulnerable in that moment. I'm sharing a need. And for some people, actually even praying out loud can be an act of vulnerability, but that's okay. You're in a safe space. Affection. There's an opportunity to actually affirm each other and encourage each other. And the greatest encouragement I've had always in my life has always been within fellow believers in a Christian community. Always. Generosity. Churches actually encourage generosity. It's part of what being a person of faith is all about. We are to give our time and our talents and our treasures to other people. It's all part of what being a Christian, the identity is. And shared experiences. So many opportunities for that. You might go away for a weekend. You might have a church weekend away. You might have some sort of conference that you attend together, or even just the whole area of hospitality. You come into my lounge room. We sit together, we eat together. So much sociological research about the fact when we eat together, our barriers are lower. I get to know you more. We share stories, and it's the shared stories that bring us together. So I think it's a one-stop shop for friendship. I also should caveat that we also have some loneliness figures related to the church as well, so we can still do better in this. But boy, there's a lot of capacity right there just in that one institution.
And then lastly, what are the best things that your best friendships have given you in your life?
Presence. So I've got a number of friends, and so if I name any, it doesn't mean that the others don't matter. But, a couple of weekends ago, I had an hour-and-a-half conversation with one of my closest friends, DJ, followed by another hour-and-a-half conversation with one of my closest friends, Jason. And these are people who inquire as to how I'm really going. How's it going running Friendship Labs, starting this nonprofit? How are you going with the workload? How's your spiritual life? How's your soul, Sheridan? They inquire into my well-being. They ask me questions about how I'm doing, which is just so important. So that presence. Fun. When I was last in Australia, I met up with both of them, and just this opportunity to go and have a meal. We went down to the beach. I've done a pilgrimage with one of these guys. Another time, Jason and I, when he came over here to visit me here in the UK, we went on a trip up to the north of England. We had this really special moment where we just stood in a field that it was perfectly silent apart from the bird songs. And we must have been standing there for 10 or 15 minutes. Now, Simon, I'm a gap filler. I don't feel comfortable with many people sitting there in silence for 10 to 15 minutes. And it said a lot about our friendship that I could do that. Just to be present, just enjoy this moment together. The affection, the encouragement, the times where things have just gone wrong. I've had some of those guys, be present in some of my darkest moments. Those would be the things, and they continue on. And we've got more to grow in. I've got more to offer. But those are the things that really make a friendship very, very rich, very, very special.
This has been Life and Faith with me, Simon Smart. A huge thanks today to Sheridan Voysey. To check in with his work at Friendship Lab, go to friendshiplab.org. You might want to sign up to the course or read more about Sheridan's work, and we'll put links to this in the show notes. Thanks also to our other guests telling us about their friendships, Zoe, Kate, and CPX's Justine, and also to Luke and Lockie. Thanks to our producer, Alan Douthwaite, for pulling this episode together. Please send it on to a friend you think might appreciate it. Perhaps this could be a reconnection with someone you haven't seen for a while. Next time we will have veteran journalist, the political and international editor for the Sydney Morning Herald, Peter Harcher. We'll look forward to that one.